All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Quinn here, and I am here to talk you through. Let me just get rid of this here real quick. There we go. I am here to talk you through our graphic organizer, our foldable, and that is going to be for adding and subtracting action words. So before we get started, I need you to make sure that you have a blank piece like this of paper. Blank piece of paper. If you don't have it, you're going to go get one right now. Pause your video. Go get it. I'll wait. All right. Hopefully you have a piece of paper. Now, we've talked a little bit today already. You talked through two warm-up problems that both had some math action words in them. Plus, you just listened to a video of me talking you through a multi-step word problem that had some math action words. And hopefully by this point you're realizing what I mean when I say math action words. They are keywords in problems that tell us an action, in this case a math action that we need to complete. And the math actions that we are worried about right now are adding and subtracting. There are other types of action words. There are action words that can tell us to multiply or to use parentheses or to use a variable. But we are worried about adding and subtracting. So the first thing that I want you to do right now is I want you to take your blank piece of paper and I want you to fold it hamburger style. It looks like a little book. Should look like this, and I want you to open it back up. And where that line is, and I'll show you what mine looks like, I want you to draw a line separating the two sides. I am rocking a green crayon from my son Miles to match my shirt, but you should have a piece of paper that looks just like this. Now, on one side, I want you to put, you guessed it, the word add. You can put a little line under it. And on the other side, I want you to put the word subtract. And you can put a little line under it. So I'll make sure that you guys can see what mine looks like. It looks like this. If you're more of a visual person and you want to see this a little bit differently, I'm going to use my blank template here to show you. So add on one side, subtract on the other. Now, you are set up and ready to sort. We are going to use this paper a lot, so it's also important that we put our name on it. So maybe somewhere in the bottom right-hand corner, you're just going to want to put your name. So I'm going to put my name here, Mr. Quinn. Perfect. As we go through some example problems right now, and as you go through practice problems the rest of today or tomorrow or the next day, you are going to use this as an ongoing organizer to write down new action words that you discover. So if you come across a word like we did in the previous video, like deposit, you would add it. See what I did there? You would add it to your addition column. So it's just as simple as writing in deposit. And that's a reference point for you. If you come across deposit in another word problem and your brain's like, oh my gosh, what is it? You don't have to panic. We can use this reference to help us, to make sure that we know what type of action to do. Because that is 90% of the battle in a word problem. It's not that you don't know how to add. It's not that you don't know how to subtract. Sometimes our brains can get overwhelmed. And that's why we make graphic organizers, so that we can reference them to be successful. And the more times we see it on paper, the more likely we are to internalize it. And that means to remember it into our long-term memory. So the other word that we saw in our video that you just watched was withdrawal. And we know that withdrawal was an antonym of deposit, the opposite of deposit. So I am going to list the word withdrawal excuse my handwriting, I'm using my finger to write, on the subtraction side of my graphic organizer. Now, I will tell you, you're probably going to come across a lot of words between today, tomorrow, and the rest of our sixth grade school year. So you're going to want to write nice, neat, and as small as you possibly can. Got to be able to read it, but you want to make sure that you have space to list all of these great words that we're going to learn. So the other thing that we've done so far today is we've talked about two problems during our warm-up. The first problem had to do with Sherry, who was building a fire pit. And if you think back to that question, it talked about the idea of, and I'm just going to pop that question up on the screen here real quick. It says, use in all. And hopefully, when you solve that problem earlier today, you added. So if we talk about use in all, I'm going to put that on the addition side of my graphic organizer. So go ahead and make sure you've done that right now. In fact, I'm going to count to 10, and I want you to make sure that you have all three of these words written down on your graphic organizer. You got to be staying with me. And 10. The other word problem that you worked on today included the key phrase, how much farther? That was a subtraction key phrase that told us what to do. And you're going to notice as we go through a couple of examples here that there's a pattern about that how much farther that you'll really start to notice. And hopefully as we go through a couple of examples, you'll be able to sort them just like that. So I'm going to jump to a couple of practice problems. And in order to do that, I need to make sure that my face is out of the way. And we can take a look here at this first question. We're not solving it. I'm not worried about getting the answer to this question. We are just worried about looking for the key math action word. This says, on a school trip, a class travels 7.1 kilometers by train and 1.8 kilometers by bus. How far did the class travel? So, how far did the class travel? They're going on a trip. We have two different distances. What do you think? Are we going to be adding those two numbers together? Or are we going to be subtracting those two numbers together? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. All right. Hopefully, as you read this question, you had some alarms sounding in your head and it was telling you that you were going to add, right? If we have two distances and we're trying to think about how far we went, we are going to be thinking about addition. Sorry. All right. So we are going to go ahead and jump. I'm going to type in what I know the answer to be there. Let's look at another question. Chloe bought 1.6 ounces of chocolate. 1.2 ounces of it was milk chocolate, and the rest was dark chocolate. How much dark chocolate did Chloe buy? All right. This one's a little more complicated. We know, and I'm going to actually do a little bit of annotating here. So she bought 1.6 ounces of chocolate altogether. 1.2 ounces of that was milk. And the rest, that's really important, the rest was dark chocolate. How much dark chocolate did she buy? Anytime you're talking about something that is left over, the remaining, the rest of something, you're going to do some subtraction. So let's come back to our graphic organizer here and let's fill that in. We are going to say that if we have the rest, maybe even what's remaining, that's going to be subtraction. Let's do one more to make sure that you guys are really understanding what we're talking about. So I am going to slide myself out of the way here. I'm going to erase all of my old marks. And let's jump ahead and let's take a look at a little bit of a harder question. So Layla got on a train and rode for 63.4 miles. Then she switched to a different train and rode 51.6 miles. How far did Layla ride in all? Oh, this one is really set up for us to be successful. Because hopefully when you see the end of this question, because I'm looking in the question for that keyword, in all, you remember, in all's already on our graphic organizer. It tells us that we want to add. That's great. So, hopefully, at this point, you guys are really starting to understand how we can use our knowledge of math action words to help us solve problems. So what I would encourage you to do is, as you go through some IXL practice here, if there's time, is as you find a new phrase, sort it. If it's addition, put it over here on the addition side. If it's subtraction, put it over here on the subtraction side. And if you're not sure, take a second, call a timeout, and go check with somebody. Check with a classmate, check with Miss Smith, check with whomever you want to make sure that you're sorting that word correctly. Because like I said, 90% of our battle with word problems is knowing what math action we need to take. All right, so you should have a piece of paper. It should have some words already sorted on it. And your name should be on this. We're going to be using this a lot, so please don't lose it. I hope this helps, and I hope this tool lets you be as successful as possible as we start our endeavor in solving some word problems. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your hard work.